It's a warm spring Friday. Time for April 9th, 2021 Diversity Community Newscast. Hosted by Harriet Tinka and myself, Rayyah Sempala. Sponsored by Rayyah Plumbing and Heating. Here are the headlines for this week. After a global protest on the death of George Floyd, let's share with you what some corporations are doing to enhance their own diversity and inclusion journeys. After numerous calls from you to join the conversation on the new Alberta curriculum, we have a summary of the good, the bad, and the ugly of the curriculum for you. As spring brightens our world, we want to reflect some of its lights on the tokenism versus leftism debate, derailing useful conversations in our communities. The new Black History Month, Women's Day Diversity Magazine, print edition, is now published with printed copies to be distributed across Alberta from April 22nd, 2021. After Diversity TV Community Newscast, Diversity TV in the Community brings to you a special panel on the good, the bad, and the ugly of the new Alberta curriculum. Now, the news in detail with Harriet Tinka.
Thank you, Rayyah. I am very excited on this Friday afternoon. Before we go to the news this week, a very important note. After our very exciting tour of the lovely city of Grand Prairie, in a couple of weeks, we will embark on our next tour of southern Alberta in the cities of Calgary, Lethbridge, and Medicine Hat, digging out untold stories as well as sharing new copies of the special edition of Diversity Magazine, Black History Month, and Women's Day Special. Want to connect? Please let us know. As spring brightens our world, we want to reflect some of its light on the tokenism versus leftism debate, derailing useful conversation in our communities. This debate was personified this week by
Dr. Ubaka Ogbogu
Yes.
and UCP Minister Kilesi Casey Madu.
Take a look at this exchange for yourself. Some corporations have been taking action to enhance their own diversity and inclusion situation. A good example is GHD Group, one of the world's leading professional services companies, is pleased to announce that it has appointed Sadaf Parvez to the newly created role of Inclusion and Diversity Leader.
And if you remember, Harriet, last week we actually talked about the importance of having diversity within companies. So this could be seen as a really good move.
It's definitely timely, and it is based in Toronto, Canada. Parvez joins the global senior leadership team and will work to advance inclusion across the company's global operations, spanning 10,000 people in over 200 offices. Wow, that's a big undertaking.
It is a big undertaking. And Sadaf was previously Director, Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Americas at Ernst & Young, EY, where she was responsible for developing, implementing, and leading organizational change. Sadaf holds Chartered Accountant designations in Ontario and the US and has certifications in executive coaching, facilitation, and intercultural studies.
She comes with a big resume. She is championing inclusion and diversity has been a top priority for GHD for a number of years, and the company has further embedded it in its culture with this new dedicated role. Sadaf spoke to Diversity TV.
So at GHD, I am the new Global Inclusion and Diversity Leader. It's a newly created role at GHD, although we've been on our I&D journey for a few years now. The leadership and the board have decided to make a permanent global leadership role. And so I'm taking that on right now. I think it's important at any organization, and at GHD has made this investment to increase the accountability and commitment they're making in the I&D space. But any organization right now in this current environment should be investing in this function, not only from a business perspective, but in order to retain and attract the best and brightest talent. So, and we know that this is important to people and society in general because of all the inequities we're seeing all around us. So I think that this role is a role that if companies don't have one, they should have one. Some of the main goals for this role is really to take the topic of inclusion and diversity and take it out of just talking and putting it into practice. So looking at the global policies and procedures, how and where are there inequities in the system currently that we can address, but also better understanding the day-to-day experiences of employees and how can we make it easier for them to thrive and feel included and have the most promising and fulfilling career at the organization. So it's both systemic, but also cultural.
Yes, and now we move on to the good, the bad, and the ugly of the new Alberta curriculum.
I believe a lot of parents would be curious to know what this new curriculum is all about. So let's share with our audience what really it's about. The Alberta draft curriculum is now out, seeking feedback to help refine the draft from kindergarten to grade 6 curriculum before it is implemented across the province. While some elementary school will pilot it and send feedback for the academic year 2021 to 2022, all elementary students will be learning from the new curriculum in 2022 to 2023.
Yes, and the world has changed a lot. Mm-hmm. So too is what we teach your kids. Your history, vital skill sets, skills of the future, and various experiences to help your kids develop into adults that will take your world to the next level. Education is the foundation of your kids' future, and the composition of the curriculum is of utmost importance to their future and, of course, your future too.
It is important to wire multiculturalism in the minds of kids, not just at an early age, but throughout the entire learning process, such that all children will see themselves in the curriculum and develop a sense of dignity, respect, and feel valued. This helps in the development of their self-esteem, how they view themselves, and eventually increases their sense of self-worth.
Yes. So what are the challenges with the new curriculum and how can it be improved?
Those are very valid questions. So let's really dig in and find out. The good parts of the curriculum, let's start off with grade 2. This one really blew my mind. At a young age, they're learning how to manage their money. Let's see what the discussion's about in this curriculum. In grade 2, they will cover how trade and businesses work, the value of money and goods, managing your money. Grade 4, understanding and creating a business plan. This is good. I wish I had known this at a grade 4 level.
Yes, this is a very good foundation for these kids.
You kind of wonder, will they be able to comprehend that at a grade 4 level?
Well, I guess this is where the input of parents and teachers might really come in handy.
Yeah, time will tell.
And so in grade 5, restrictive immigration policies in Canadian history will be introduced. And in grade 4, kids will learn about Alberta's history and the expansion of the West. They will also learn about Francophone contributions to Alberta history, as well as the history of varied ethnic settlers in Alberta, including the Chinese, Sikh, Ukrainian, and Hutterite communities, Black settlements in Alberta, and the contributions of many early Black pioneers.
Well, in grade 5, what do they have in stock? Grade 5, you will be creating computational artifacts, coding, and translating algorithm in code. There's a comment on that.
Yes. These are all the parts of the good components from the Alberta curriculum, especially the components of coding or making a business plan, which is good for the development of an entrepreneurial mind. Stopping these components too early might pose a problem, but if these components are introduced for a long time in the later years, kids will be more apt to develop them.
Absolutely, because in order for these components to be sustainable, they need to follow up in the later grades. So hopefully this will happen. Now let's focus on the bad of this curriculum. Kids are taught about Sikh, but the Sikh are from India. Why cut out one group?
Yes, the entire country of India should be included or later in the curriculum since it's still under development.
Now, the ugly of the curriculum.
Yes, there's widespread evidence of copying parts of the curriculum without referencing. Not the best example for training students with zero tolerance on copying the work of others.
I know when I was going to school, plagiarism was a big deal. I imagine it's still, yeah. So it's not a very, seeing that some of the curriculum is being plagiarized, that kind of remains to be seen.
Yes. So if you want to learn more about our panel discussion on this topic, stay tuned for the discussion on this on the curriculum for more comments from community leaders.
The new Black History Month / Women's Day Diversity Magazine print edition is now published with full color, glossy, beautiful printed copies to be distributed across Alberta from April 22nd, 2021. It's loaded with inspiring Black History Month stories as well as exciting stories of 41 women across Alberta as part of International Women's Day Special 2021.
You can download the free copy on www.diversitymag.ca and click on the digital magazines on the top menu bar.
So exciting! Fashion and beauty time on Diversity TV.
Yes. This week, we go back to visit Quick Fix Hair and Beauty Supply on 118 Avenue in Edmonton.
They're still dressing my hair this week, and I just absolutely love it. And next week, you will be surprised. They will also be taking care of our hair and beauty. Now, Quick Fix sells beauty products such as hair extensions and also has a full functioning salon on 10422 118 Avenue in Edmonton. For more information, please go to their website, www.quickfixit.ca. This week, we are celebrating the work of 3 women as part of the Women's Day Special. Meet some of the women who made it on the list of Women's Day Special 2021 in Alberta. Diversity Magazine Women's Day Special 2021, Jan Underwood.
Now, Jan Underwood belongs to the city of Red Deer, a welcoming and inclusive community network. She also belongs to the Cultural Heritage Society, the Interfaith Network, and the Red Feather Women. She delivers many workshops and presentations and creates events per year throughout central Alberta in colleges, universities, workplaces, organizations, and conferences on intercultural awareness, anti-racism, communication, and sensitivity, cultural competence, citizenship, global issues, and other related topics.
She is a recipient of the Women of Excellence Award, the Mayor's Award, and is a diversity champion. Wow, we got to take a breather on what she does.
Yeah, she does do a lot.
It's ongoing. Thank you, Jan Underwood, for what you are doing in the community. Continue to do what you're doing. A big deal. Diversity Magazine Women's Day Special 2021 introduces Michelle Dion.
Michelle Dion is a family physician in Edmonton and a member of the Alberta Board of Health since 2018. She initiated the Eduk Franco Sante, providing education to the public about health. Her community work has led her to receive the 2020 Jean-Paul Bogard Award of Excellence from Alberta's ACFA.
Diversity Magazine Women's Day Special 2021, Noor Hussein.
Every woman possesses a brilliant mind. It's a powerful, sharp, fast, and most of all, beautiful. Her name is Noor Hussein, and she's an entrepreneur, co-owner of CKN Commercial and Residential Services Limited and president of YYC EV Solutions.
I ask every woman in the world to empower another simply by boosting one's self-esteem. The rest will follow in no time. We live in one of the most amazing countries where freedom is given without being fought and without being asked. I believe in your brilliant mind and you believe in mine. Those are our words. Read more about the amazing women for Diversity Magazine Day Special on www.diversitymag.ca.
Now we move on to coronavirus project Cool Times. Alberta is back to step 1 as mandatory health measures go into effect at midnight for retail, fitness, and performance activities.
From noon on Friday, April 9, restaurants will be restricted to providing only takeout, delivery, and patio service.
Read the list of public health restrictions on www.alberta.ca.
It's a bit unfortunate. I was really enjoying meeting friends and going to restaurants and, socializing. But we get it. we know we have to do our part in controlling this COVID-19.
And it is important as the vaccines are only starting to roll out and there's more people starting to get vaccinated.
Yes.
So hopefully if we bunker down for this amount of time, we'll be able to go out and have our fun this summer, which is going to be one of the hottest summers we've had in a while.
Yeah, I always like to quote, and I don't know who said this, this too shall pass. I think this is important to always remember that this is temporary. I know it's been going on for so long, but let's all do what we need to do. We don't want to be the COVID-19 advocates, but we are sharing the news that we all have to do our part to get rid of this monster called COVID so it can go back to its genie bottle, as I like to say. Now we're going to go international. We have some international news. And this is from Ivory Coast. Some fun facts on Ivory Coast. Do you have one for us, Rayyah?
Yes. It's a bit of a depressing fact. So in Ivory Coast, the average life expectancy is 57. So to put it into perspective, here in Canada, the average life expectancy is 83.
Wow, that's a difference of about 26 if my math is correct. Wow, that is a big deal. And I believe at 57, you're just beginning your second life, so to speak. You've retired, the kids have grown up if you're a parent, and you have all the freedom. So that is quite sad, you're right. 57 at that age in Ivory Coast is young. So let's be grateful for what we have. Gratitude goes a long way.
So Laurent Gbagbo, former president of Ivory Coast, is freed from crimes against humanity at the ICC.
That's a big deal. What are we cooking this week for Dish of the Week?
Well, we're cooking a classic fried chicken.
Oh, chicken. Oh, this will be good for the meatitarians. I am a pescatarian.
Harriet, I don't think meatitarians is a thing.
I made it up. I'm sure it's there. If you look it up, I'm sure it's there.
Okay. So the finished product coming off the kitchen is a unique version of fried chicken that is soft, soupy, tasty, and very presentable. The way of Chef Selassie of Selassie's Grill on 8604 112 Avenue, Northwest Edmonton, in Alberta, Canada.
Ooh, bon appetit. That sounds delicious.
Yes. That does sound delicious, Harriet.
Yeah.
We have lots of announcements this week. Right, Harriet?
You bet. So let's get on with them. In Edmonton will host a very important diversity conference this summer on July 6 to 10 at 9 p.m., inviting big names like
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. III. For tickets, please go to www.diversityconference.ca.
The University of Alberta is now accepting applications for Black high school students for the University of Alberta Black Youth Mentorship and Leadership Program. This is an interdisciplinary program that seeks to socially and economically empower Black youths. For more information about the program, go to their website. And the application deadline is on April 15. It's coming up. Go on their website at www.ualberta.ca.
Yes, there is that. And it's such an exciting time for youth to go and apply.
Mm-hmm, you bet. Now with all the students looking for extra money to cover their tuition, why not? I encourage all those youth who qualify to take advantage of those opportunities.
Yes, and now we go on to And now we move on to the Empower Black Entrepreneurs to Lead Successful Business Projects program. The aim of this program is to support Black entrepreneurs by providing information strategies and resources to help them increase their capacity and viability to innovate their businesses and overcome the impact COVID-19 had on their businesses.
Well, this support services would equip them to drive their business forward and identify ways to help their businesses prosper through webinars, forums, workshops, coaching, business skills development training, peer supports, and more best practices related to entrepreneurship. Registration can be found on their website.
So we move on to policing. How would you improve policing? Tell EPS as your feedback matters. Everyone is welcome to share their ideas and experiences at these community listening sessions.
But the space is limited, so register early to leave, or you can leave your comments at epsinput.ca. Some of the upcoming opportunities to participate include Zoom listening session with Chief Del McPhee. It will be held on Tuesday, April 20, 2021 from 6 to 8:30 p.m. Another opportunity, another Zoom session with Chief Del McPhee will be Tuesday, May 18, 2021 from 6 to 8:30 p.m. To register, please go to www.epsinput.ca.
On Sunday, April 11th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., traditional Chinese medicine as a complementary treatment for cancer with Dr. Lowell Stewart, DTCM, LACRMT. Learn about what exactly is traditional Chinese medicine, how long has TCM been used to treat cancer, what role does TCM play in the treatment of cancer today, cancer explained through using TCM, how TCM modulates such as acupuncture and Chinese herbals can help treatment.
That would be a great event. I definitely plan to get educated on the Chinese herbals and all the treatment that they do. Now on Saturday, May 18, 2021, from 1 to 6 p.m., we have an event. 2021 Women of Vision Conference, which will be Mother's Day get-together by Women of Vision in Calgary. Tickets will be a good investment of $16.29, and this will happen on May 8, 2021 from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m., and that is Mountain Time.
Yes, it will be an online event, and there are no refunds. This year, they would be looking at breaking the cycle of domestic violence with subtopics such as physical and sexual abuse. You will receive a Zoom link a few days to the event for the 9th Annual Women of Vision.
Today, I'm sharing my decision about the 2021 election. I will not be running for mayor this October. Calgary, thank you for everything. It's been the honor of my life. Nahid Nenshi, Mayor of Calgary.
Dr. Charles Odame Ankara, a community leader in Calgary, shares what this means for the community.
Mayor Nenshi has served the city quite well, and he has seen us through tough times for 3 terms. Remember the major flooding that we had in Calgary, where he showed so much leadership. Calgary has gone through a downturn during his tenure, where people have lost jobs, and Calgary is going through a pandemic, and he's been there along the way. And during his tenure, Calgary has risen from being one of the best cities to the best cities, one of the best city to live with young families, and the community is growing. And I always believe that maybe to him, he has accomplished what he came to do, his vision for the city. So it's time for a new phase, new idea to push Calgary to the next level. And I know he has set a very good foundation for the city to get to that level. We need to build a new society where everybody has an equal footing. We need to build a society where people who have been hurt in the past by institutions, by actions of individuals, by a certain minority of people that has resulted in systemic alienation of these minorities. It's time for us to heal as a city and come together and grow. And so what I am looking at for leadership is somebody who has that vision of uniting the city, bringing all of us together, and letting all of us contribute to answering the question of where we as citizens of the city wants to see Calgary next. Is very, very, very important. So we need a unifier because Mayor Nenshi was a unifier, and we need another strong unifier force to push the city to that next level where there will be a collective. When I mean, when any policy that comes, it's from the collective, not from a group of people.
We now begin our panel on the draft Alberta curriculum, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thank you for watching Diversity TV Community Newscast from Harriet, Tinka, and
Rayyah Sempala.
See you next week.
And we can be found on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and on our website, www.diversitymag.ca.
See you next week.
Diversity TV in the community. Diversity TV brings to you our panel on Alberta draft curriculum to educate our community on the new Alberta curriculum. Moderated by Diversity TV hosts Harriet, Tinka, and Rayyah Sempala. Our panelists are Gail Ann Wilson, Joseph Lurie. So, welcome everyone to Diversity TV. Thank you, everyone. So we'll go slowly to everyone so that you guys can have an opportunity to introduce yourselves. So we can start with Joseph.
For inviting me to this panel to talk about the Alberta curriculum. My name is Joseph Lurie. I work as a youth worker with a social work background for the Mennonite Center for Newcomers in Edmonton. But I also do a lot of other supports within the African community. My last experience was probably about 4 years ago when I ran as a trustee, and I was not successful. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Gail Ann Wilson. I'm a teacher with one of the boards within Edmonton. I have been a very interested stakeholder in diversity issues all my life, but especially combining that with what I do in education. My primary area of teaching has predominantly been social studies. And I'm also quite experienced with working with the building of curriculum resources, excuse me, within my current assignment with the school board that I'm with. Thanks.
Can you explain what some of this new curriculum means to the community and how it's going to really help students?
The new curriculum, as it has been, put together, is quite elaborate. It's going to help students to learn about the different perspectives that has been put into the curriculum. For example, now merging together developments and developments within the Christianity, Islam, and the Jews So kids get to know the background and how those things go. However, there are also a few things that has made the curriculum not to be really quite in the interest of many parents and many other jurisdictions. For example, when you look at the grade 1 and the grade 2, they are to learn about all this other stuff that has to do with democracy, the old Greece, the philosophers in Greece. And so our feeling is, or my personal feeling is that this is a good prescription, but it is not for the right age, because what is happening is the kids are being pumped with the facts and they're supposed to memorize these facts and know. And so what I see as learning that is good for younger kids at the elementary level is to have an open topic of learning. And so the instructor in the class would determine what outcomes they really want to get out of all this. Unfortunately, in this new curriculum, it has already been designed, the outcomes have already been designed. And not only that, there are a few things that have been left out in this curriculum. For example, if you look at issues that concerns the Blacks, the enslavement of the Blacks, that has been left out. That is a very painful chapter that people need to learn, and so they can move forward properly. Also, if you look at the recent issues with the residential schools, it is important for a chapter to be put about the residential schools, so really students get to know what happened in the past and why things look as they are. The Truth and the Reconciliation Commission has come out with a lot of good recommendations. And so this would allow our kids and even those immigrating from outside to learn at an early age about what they see and why they see it that way. So even with the first or the Aboriginals, it will be explainable and the kids would understand, instead of them looking at the Aboriginals in the street as, these people. Well, there is a cause. So why don't we learn about our past in order to project ourselves into the future so that we all move together as unified?
So it was a very dense read, as I'm sure anybody who has gone through the entire curriculum can attest to. My area of specialty is social studies, as I've mentioned, so I really did put the majority of my focus on that. I'm very aware of a number of other issues that exist within the entire curriculum, but I can most profoundly speak to the area of social studies, as well as how that intersects with diversity. The one thing that I saw that I felt was very on the positive side, moving in a positive direction, was that there was a very strong incorporation of getting a historical perspective for Black people and trying to create some alignment with how Black people have migrated to both Canada and to Alberta. So it definitely was an area that I felt was addressed. I'm not going to say that it was addressed in a way that I can really get behind, but I felt that that was a positive step. Previous governments that we've had, notably the last government that we had in their draft, had not addressed it to the same extent. So I believe that this was a good step forward. However, where I might differ from my other panelists respectfully is I definitely believe that we have to go back and we have to create a very strong knowledge of the history of Black people. The issue that I take, and this is not exclusive to this, this draft curriculum, but to the majority of curriculums that are out there, is that we commonly do not approach this with an Afrocentric perspective or positive perspective of Black people. So what I mean by that is that the majority of the materials that were presented represented Black people in an oppressive state. So although we are addressing slavery, it generally tends to be the introduction to the curriculum or the student's relationship to Black people. So we're not talking about positive legacies. We're not looking at positive historical African examples of empires. What we tend to focus on is just that aspect of slavery and oppression. So one of the biggest challenges that I find I found going through this is that Black people were generally represented in an oppressive state. And what that ultimately does is it promotes a mindset of inferior social, economic, and cultural participation in society. And so what that leads to and what that means for students in the future, and this is not just our Black students, this is all of our students, is that the relationship that they will have with their Black counterparts, whether at school or whether in community on the whole, is that they recognize that Black people came from a state in which they weren't equal. And so part of my discussion this evening is going to be to talk about and point out how common that was in this draft curriculum.
You did mention, Gail, that the curriculum is dense, and it is. And some of the things that they've identified is things that kids really need, like the money sense, that aspect. And there's also politics. They've also talked about that. So there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you've mentioned some of the ugly stuff. So is there anything else? And I'm going to address to both of you. Like one of the things that you highlighted, of course, the ugly, the bad would be, not really highlighting the Blacks in a positive light. Is there anything else in addition to that that you'd like to address as well? And I'm addressing to both of you. If you can just give me one ugly thing that you found in the curriculum.
I mean, there are quite a few great things. In the curriculum itself, what I would say that is ugly is the methodology that they have used, where there's so much facts for these young folks, and for them to be able to understand these and pass exams or tests, it means they have to really cram. And so if you are going to be cramming stuff or memorize stuff, that would just limit your development in the mind. You would not be thinking outside of the box. So that is one of the observations that I have, that there's too much effects for these younger folks.
Thanks, Joseph. I'll jump in behind you. Absolutely in agreement that it can be said that it's both not age appropriate and attainable. From the perspective that I have as a social studies teacher, just looking at the grade 2 curriculum, the majority of content that would be expected to be covered within that period of time, remembering that students have approximately at the elementary level 30 minutes of dedicated lesson time for a subject area. So looking again at that grade 2 curriculum in social studies, the content is far too dense. With the level of experience that I have, not just as a teacher, but also academic, as I was reviewing that, the majority of those topics are not topics that I could comfortably even teach without having to go back and take a tremendous amount of professional development. My ugly, however, is when I'm taking a look at the draft overall, what I'm seeing that is very much steered towards what I would call a Western, white, Anglo-Christian, colonial-centered perspective. And it very much lands on the use of privilege to create the context in which it's delivered. And what it also talks about is how relationships are to be developed through the use of this curriculum. And so what it really tells me is that racialized groups will have to continually acknowledge the privilege of white cultures. So really what I'm seeing, and again, this is being very specific to the social studies content, but we're looking at 6 years of this type of indoctrination. What I really would be concerned about is the foundation that we're setting up for generations, right? These would be attitudes that would remain with those students indoctrinated at a very young age and continually advanced. So that was what I have to say is my ugliest. There are other things that I think are bad, but to highlight that which I find to be the biggest challenge for me to find acceptability in this draft really lands on that.
And we're hearing that for this year it would only be a pilot curriculum, and they plan on implementing it for the coming year. So I guess my question is, do you think that it would be best for the government to hear these recommendations from the community and from teachers of how they should move forward so that students can have a good experience at school?
If the government is to listen to the community and particularly the parents, and then they can modify this draft. If they are to pull in the teachers who are at least the experts of learning, then they may be able to modify this and be acceptable to the parents. My fear is it is going to bring a lot of conflict of pull and push, since a place like Edmonton Public School Board has rejected it. Elk Island Public School, that is the Shout Park area, has also rejected it. The Wild Rose School Division has also rejected it based on what they hear from the parents. And so I believe politicians have no place in creating curriculum, but they could prepare the environment. And it is not too late. If they pull in, like I say, listen to the parents, listen to the communities, pull in the teachers, and ensure that it is the students first, the teachers to get it in order. And then I believe this will work out for the good of the people. However, one of my fear is also that the government may look at these particular areas, jurisdictions that have refused to adapt it as a trial period, and use financial, the leverage and force them. And so I don't know at the end how it is going to go, but this is going to be pushing people probably and say, if it is not a must in private schools, and if it is not because private schools are not affordable, many parents may be pulling their kids into such situations. But I think it is incumbent to the parents to respond, because there is an area where they can give a feedback through the various means that are available. Thank you.
Yes, I absolutely agree that parents absolutely must participate. As a matter of fact, I think it's not limited to just parents. You don't have to have a child to be a stakeholder in what we see in public education. I think what's really concerning for me is that the previous curriculum, so the curriculum draft that was to come in from the previous government was a draft that was built and it was a nonpartisan draft. There was materials that had been carried over from the government prior, and that draft was being designed using the perspectives of multiple political parties, although that is supposed to be absent from what we're seeing in education. But just to say who was driving, there were two different governments that were actually behind that previous draft, and that was one that had not yet come to be piloted. So where we're sitting at now is taking a look at a draft curriculum under this Kenney government that interestingly is very critical of the previous curriculum that was under a PC government as well, which I thought was quite ironic. The majority of criticism for what students had been learning and students had been taught, and the failures of that came from a government that was quite aligned with this current government. Where we need to go next, in my opinion, with what happens is, I don't know that this is necessarily a salvageable draft. There's been a notable absence of people or stakeholders that really would have made a huge difference at the table. That does include teachers. It also includes the Alberta Teachers Association, which was asking for a seat at that table so that there could be perspective offered and at times probably a little bit of guidance and steering. The question that I had as I was reading through this was who really was behind it, who were those folks that were consulted on. And interestingly, there were no teachers that were involved that have been identified. The draft was actually done concealing the identities of the majority of folks that were involved in its design. And its questions, there was a number of questions that arose for me around that. How could something that so profoundly affects not just public education, but society on the whole, be done behind closed doors? And what exactly does that mean? We are learning now more and more about who some of these folks are behind this draft. Chris Champion, I believe, is the name of one of those. And this is not an educator. So we are taking a look at a number of people that might have an extension into the world of education, but I would really question their qualification in terms of how they are spearheading something that's as important as public education in a province as large as ours.
Up some really, really good, some very key points there. When you're doing any organization change, any sort of change, the subject matter expert have to be involved. And it almost seems like there's a disconnect in this whole process. So I guess at the end of the day, are they going to implement this curriculum? That remains to be seen. But as far as we know, I guess it's going to be a pilot study, I guess, for now, and see how it goes. But I've seen it, I've read it, and I know, as we say, there's good, bad, and ugly. So at the end of the day, I think we have to think about our children and what we're doing with this curriculum. Are we really educating them, stressing them out, or what is it that at the end of the day we want to achieve? So the curriculum has a lot of ins and outs that we really need to I guess the politicians as well as educators have to really review and see at the end of the day, are we really doing what we need to do for our children's future and education? So I really want to thank both of you for taking time and coming here and discussing this very critical issue, because it's an ongoing topic. And as we know, it's just a pilot project, but who knows, they may or they may not implement it. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time. So hopefully I'm hoping that we'll come back again and talk about the same topic. Hopefully we'll have more information and we'll see the reaction from the students. So thank you again. We really appreciate your time from Diversity TV.